Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the Shrimp Tank. This is our virtual Zoom Shrimp Tank that we're doing. I'm Ted Jenkin, your co-host, along with my co-host Lee Heisman. And every week on the Shrimp Tank, we bring you some of the brightest and best owners and CEOs in and around the city of Atlanta, the state of Georgia, and across the United States on the Shrimp Tank. Every single week, we try to give you this combination of street smarts and book smarts, and that's where that intersection collides, and we learn more about how business owners have taken their businesses from nothing and taken that seed of germination and turned it into a business and ultimately grew it for the long term. As always, for first-time viewers on here who usually listen to our podcast, Lee and I have interviewed some 225 amazing CEOs and owners here in the city of Atlanta, and we've done more than 1,000 interviews across the United States. We have Shrimp Tank cities in Seattle and Los Angeles and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and Charleston, South Carolina, Boca Raton, Florida, Houston, Texas, Seattle, and all over the country. Even Boston is doing fantastic. So you can go to shrimptankpodcast.com to check out all of the goods. You can tune into iHeartRadio or download us on iHeartRadio, or always go to Apple, download the podcast there, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or anywhere around the internet. And so we'll bring in our guest in just a few minutes, Agatha Achindu, and I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. She's got some amazing businesses, been featured on the Today Show and Inc. and many other places, and especially in a time where we're talking about health and wealth, but especially the health part and nutrition. I think she's going to give us some invaluable insight. And Lee, what do you see going on here? The state of Georgia just decided to open up its doors and allow everything from tattoo parlors to bowling alleys start opening. What do you think now that we're a week or so into this? Was it a good idea, yay or nay? What are you hearing?
Well, Ted, two things. We talked about this last week on our show. You went and immediately got a tattoo, I think. You wanted to embrace. Yep. And then I went to a bowling alley and I threw a few rounds of bowling, and then I hurt my back, so I did a massage afterwards, and then went to a restaurant on Monday after that. And Agatha, we're just kidding, of course, but they opened all these businesses up. Here's what I found interesting, Ted. It's interesting to be the tip of the spear here in Georgia, where we're the first state, of course. Last week's guest, if you hadn't seen it, Zach Wojan, has the largest parking company in the entire Southeast. And last Tuesday, Ted, we talked about the fact that Capital City Grill had 79 reservations on a Tuesday night, and they fulfilled all of them. So I'm just watching everything unfold. Agatha's eyes opened up like mine did as well. Last Tuesday, restaurants were already booking reservations and doing it. So I'm simply watching what's happening and watching it unfold, maintaining our safety. Wear masks. I do recommend you wear a mask, of course, not just for your safety, but for everybody else's safety. But the most important thing we can do out there, and that's why I think Agatha is so timely, is maintain your own health. You know, focus on how you take care of yourself. But I will tell you, Ted, before we bring Agatha in, I was sitting over the weekend, I saw a link, and for those entrepreneurs out there, you know, a lot of people look back, and of course we know 2020, looking back, hindsight's 2020, right?
Yeah,
anything you can do. And I hit a link on CNN this weekend that said about the LA Lakers and the Shake Shack trying to get their funding, right? They went out, they got their crisis funding, but they did give the money back. And I go to hit the link, and all of a sudden I see my good friend Ted Jenkin on CNN, and I didn't realize it was you that was doing the show. And I will pre-warn our entrepreneurs and even our listeners out there that when you look back at how people are acting, because the LA Lakers they attempted to get the funding, they did receive the $4.5 million, and they very quickly returned that. So when this pandemic hit, Ted, about 2 months ago, people tend to second guess what people have done back then. But we didn't know what the future was. And as we're watching this play out, all I pre-warn our entrepreneurs and our listeners is try not to judge people's actions. There is no framework for this. There is no map. Everybody's just trying to take it week by week. So I love that the LA Lakers gave the money back. I'm personally not too critical that they went and applied because we didn't know what was going to happen, just as everybody stocked up on toilet paper and panicked at the stores. But I think the dust is beginning to settle. You know, I'm glad that we're moving in a forward direction and we're going to have a new normal. But all I do and warn our listeners and our entrepreneurs is don't live in the past. Don't second guess what people have done. Live right now in the future. And what you can do by that is listening to this show, because Agatha, I think, is the cornerstone of what we're all going to try to focus on, which is our health.
Lee, you know, you mentioned that, and it's funny because in business in general, that happens a lot. We often judge ourselves by our own intentions, but we often judge other people by their actions. And you really need to make sure that you take some time to understand what the intentions were of somebody, because they may have had good intentions and just had a bad action, right? It wasn't always, but we often do that too much, Lee, not just personally, but people do it a lot in business. And it can cost you dearly if you make the wrong assumption about why somebody's doing something.
I agree 100%. Well, let's bring our guest on. Agatha, I'm so glad that you joined us. And Ted, I met this young lady at Monica Leja's event, Break Into Business. And if you've seen a few of our episodes ago, we had our top 4 or 5 winners on the show, of course, the young students. Agatha, it was the only time in our 5 years of running this podcast when I asked one of our CEOs and entrepreneurs, how do clients get in touch with you to use their product? And it's the first time, Agatha, that I had an entrepreneur say, you're going to have to call my mom. Let me give you her number. So it was an amazing experience. Agatha was on the panel with me, Ted. We have a few other guests. Rashad Ritchie's coming on soon, Agatha, as well.
Yeah.
And a few of the other panelists and investors that we were into this event. And I was blown away sitting next to this woman and just what her product is and how her lifestyle is, because that's the cornerstone of where we all need to be, not just for ourselves, but you also focus on children. So Agatha, tell us about your business and how long ago you started, because it seems to be perfect timing right now.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. I think we've come full circle in America when we talk about health, given the fact that we have a virus out there that we've all been asked to rely on our immune system as our first defense, because there is no vaccine. We know for sure it's there. And this has been my thing. I moved to the United States in 1990. And I remember coming in here and I was so excited to come to America. It's America, for goodness sakes. Beautiful cars, beautiful houses, and all that. But when I came, my shock was the food. And just looking from the outside in, and years later today, some of these things make sense. But to me, I could only connect the dots where I was. When I go out, I see a lot of people. There wasn't the vibrancy and vitality that, I left at home. Most of the people I saw were sick. I'm like, what happened? But then I walked into the grocery store. I remember asking my friend, where is the food? And she was so shocked, because today, after being in America for 30 years, I would initially be shocked as well, right? Because I'm so used to seeing food in boxes. But I came from a farm. I think the only thing I remember that I can truly say I grew up seeing in a can was tinned tomatoes and sardines. Nothing else. I'd never seen any vegetable in a can. So she's like, oh, well, there is this, there is that. And then I'm like, no, I mean real food. She's like, oh, raw food. I said, yes. She took me to a little corner of the grocery store, and it was just the little corner. It had some apples, some sweet potatoes. And again, this was 1990. So we have moved very far from that. Now you see produce and things all over. But I was so shocked. And she got like canned peas and corn. I'm asking her, why don't you just buy fresh corn? It takes a minute to cook. And oh, well, it's in the can. And that thing smelled so awful. Not trying to judge, but that was my journey. So I started hosting little classes in my dorm room and when I had my little apartment. And before you knew it, I was that person that if somebody is trying to deal with their weight issue or somebody has a lot of skin problem, they would call me. I tell people, you all forced me into integrative nutrition program, because it got to a point where I'm like, you know what? Let me get some of this background, because I have just been helping people from how I live and how I eat. But let me understand some science behind this. And I wasn't so concerned with food for kids, because it was a lot of us adults and trying, oh, don't fry that, don't use vegetable oil. And I mean, we can go on and on.
Well, Agatha, let's talk about that, because I know that your website says you're a wellness entrepreneur, and I really like that term in there. But what does that mean for most folks that, you'll see this in a lot of big companies now. They talk about wellness programs. What does that really mean when somebody should put themselves on some sort of wellness program?
And Ted, you mentioned website as well, but Agatha didn't even mention the name of her business. So I wanted people to know what website
Yeah.
you're speaking of.
So one of my businesses is Yummy Spoonfuls, and Yummy Spoonfuls is a fresh, frozen, organic food for kids that's made from scratch with 0 preservatives in small batches using ingredients that parents would find in their own homes. And it's funny, you actually brought my business. Whenever I talk, business is the last on my mind, which is kind of weird, but eventually that comes because this journey never started for me to run a business. That wasn't my intention. My intention is to get my community well, because I know this type of way, the way that I feel, the way I live is attainable by all. It's not something elusive for the rich. I'm not rich. I started doing 3 jobs. So I am that average person that wants to live a better life. And Ted, to answer your question, to me, and this has been the part that's a bit hard, and I tell everybody that I meet, I say in America today, until we figure out how to make wellness profitable, we are going to always have a problem, because we have a healthcare system that's for profit. So by us being well, we are a conflict of interest for the people who spend so much time trying to make money. So for me, being a wellness entrepreneur is very simple. It's whatever it is that you're doing, you put the health of your consumers as your number 1 priority. So it's not about money. Money will come because you're doing good, right? So the difference with a lot of companies is it always starts from a place of profit. So even when they are trying to give health, the health has to very quickly be profitable. And wellness and health doesn't work like that. It takes patience. It takes time. So if you're trying to be healthy, sometimes it's not just about looking for a company out there that's screaming the loudest about being a wellness company. Sometimes it's just about you taking a pause and being present enough to start asking the right questions.
You know, so I get that you're 100% right. And we promote that through not only all of our studios, but all of our studios are connected to every entrepreneurship center of the college in their respective city. And that's what they promote. They talk about profits have to come, but passion is much more important. And that's what we've seen with all of our entrepreneurs, right? You have to be passionate about what you're doing, and money will eventually come. And I love the fact that you said that, but a lot of people may ask the question, how did you actually start that? I mean, if you look at your website, you've gotten on all of these very popular venues, such as Ted said, the Today Show and Inc. magazine. You're in Walmart. Your products are in Walmart as well. How do you ensure the quality of your products? How do you manage that? And then how do you get into these large chain retailers like a Walmart? I mean, right. It all looks great on paper, and you're making it sound too easy, right? You're making it look too easy. And we see that to be the case with successful entrepreneurs. How did you do that? And how do you do that?
Oh, no, it's not easy. This has been a lot of work, but the commitment for trying to do the right thing. And I want to just say something though, because the work wasn't the part of trying to make the right food. The hardest part was getting the support to make the right food. Like I was told just, well, parents don't care so much about healthy food. Or I go to a manufacturer, which I think counted, we did about 150. We couldn't find a manufacturer that could make live food, which means they would use fresh ingredients, not using pre-blanch or already pureed and things like that. So it was hard.
You went through 150 manufacturers?
Yes, my business partner and I, we actually called that many co-packers, yes.
And you actually not only called them, but also did research, and it wasn't just a one-time phone call. So you went through 150. And Ted, Again, that's another success for entrepreneurs. Agatha makes it look easy. Oh yeah, look where I am right now.
Yes.
The amount of time it would take to vet 15 co-packers. We're talking
Crazy.
10 times out, Matt, Ted, 150.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Agatha.
Yeah. And it was a lot difficult because we had food for babies, and then we had food for toddlers and food for big kids. So trying, the most challenging part was getting a co-packer that wants to make applesauce from apples.
From apples.
And yeah, it's just, which is, if it wasn't so sad because of the health impact that foods like this have, it would be funny. But this is our reality. You can get apple puree from Peru to America and then cook it again and then fill it in pouches. So sometimes by the time this food reached the mouths of kids, of babies who are eating it, it's 2 years old.
Oh.
But that was the challenge. And so getting into a Walmart, this is what I tell entrepreneurs. The problem, and this is for me from experience, the problem is sometimes we start so low. Like you go to this secretary, don't undersell yourself to start from the top, because all somebody's going to tell you is no. Even Walmart, you can go to Walmart's website and fill out their new vendor form. This is not something that you need to, go hire a broker if you're really a small brand.
Agatha, how do they know how to keep you on the shelf? Like, is there a certain amount of product that you have to sell once you're into a big box retailer like Walmart?
Oh yes, of course. Getting into any stores, any store, any retail chain is the easy part, even though it sounds and feel like, oh, that's like the hardest. Staying on shelf is where the work is, because at this point, it's a money game. It's Walmart. If you're not moving product, if you're not selling, then you have to go, and somebody else will take that space.
How do you do that? What are your keys to staying on the shelf and staying relevant?
I think for us, for Yummy Spoonfuls, I would say just the fact that we put the health of our children before profit has created a ripple effect. Because when parents hear me talk, when parents see me post recipes day in and day out, despite the fact that I sell food, right, they have a level of trust that this is not just about money, because it's never been. But that doesn't mean that I don't feel blessed. I don't have a sense of gratitude that I am making money, because we do work extremely hard.
So what you're saying is, you think customers that have shopped in Walmart and seen your product, they try it, and then they reach out to you, whether they follow you on social media or they follow your website, you think it's kind of an inverse or a dual road here, where not only do you have followers on your social media that may go get your products, but the people that find your products in the aisles, you then latch onto them and you don't let go. You continue to produce content?
That is part of it. But the most important thing, one, the way we make our products. So for example, we have pancakes that has no sugar. It's not the cheapest way to make food, but it's the healthiest way. So we sweeten the pancakes with banana. The other pancake, we sweeten it with apples. And then we use sprouted whole wheat flour. And then to add moisture, we use sweet potato. So that's real food. We might not make 90% margin on it, but we do make it profitable enough that Walmart has carried it for 1 year. So it's not about cheap. Cheap food doesn't have to hurt people. You can make good food, good quality that tastes amazing, because of the market that we have, it's kids' food, right? It doesn't matter how much people love us. If the food is not sweet, if it doesn't taste good to them, parents are not going to keep buying it because the kids are not going to eat it. So one, I make recipes that are kids tasted and trusted. I just take all the crazy things out, because so much of their health honestly depends on the food that they eat. And then 2, I am authentic to what I do. The reason I'm in business today wasn't because I was trying to go make money, was because I was trying to change my community. So I touched a spot that nobody was playing in, and today is the business that it is. So be authentic. Make sure you make product that's good enough. Product that you can eat. People start trusting you. They will trust the fact that it is good. And then because you are who you are, you create that emotional connection. Food has a lot of emotional connection. It's not like buying a car.
It's very true.
So where do you think, Agatha, that most parents are making mistakes in how they feed their kids today? Is there something parents should be doing differently that would be simple and easy to implement than they're doing today?
I think the biggest, I don't want to say it's a mistake. Food parenting, it is a thing. We spend so much time, we invest time training our kids to potty train, how to ride a bike, but it really baffles me when it comes to food. What is it that really make parents give up a little bit faster? And I think the American Pediatric Association, they did a study many years ago that they pulled, it might be 300 mothers to see how many times they try a new product. And a lot of them said, oh, when we try 5 times and the child doesn't take to it, then we'll give up. And they were like, no, for some kids, studies show that you can try 25 to 30 times. For me, working with some parents, you can actually try up to 90 times. So parents, for one, needs to be patient. They need to be consistent. But I think the overarching piece that's missing in America is the fact that they haven't done a good job connecting the importance of nutrition.
I think you're exactly right, Agatha.
To the health.
That's why I connected with you, Agatha, because I've been in health and my wife is an integrative nutritionist as well. And I think, with this pandemic, we're actually, as a country, are getting a shot in the arm. Ted, I don't know if you know, 2 months ago, Dr. Michael Osterholm, the expert in pandemics, had said he was really concerned for America. It started obviously in China and was starting to run across the world. And he said, I'm very comfortable that America will have the most deaths and mortality numbers, not percentage, because that's a whole nother topic, but it will have the most numbers of the highest mortality rates simply because of the lack of health of our country. And I think, Agatha, this is kind of like, I have friends or I know people that have had heart attacks who have not taken care of their health. And unfortunately, that heart attack or that major health issue usually is the shot in the arm that makes people wake up and say, I have to take care of my health. I have to get back to exercise. And I think this pandemic is a nice way to kind of another shot in the arm for our country to say, we have to focus on our health because we can't control all these other factors. But normally, Agatha, we have about 2 commercial breaks, and I'm going to pull out our sponsor. We're not going to do it today with the Zoom, but in the studio, we have Adamson and Cleveland, our law firm that we promote, and they have a wonderful commercial. And we obviously have Brian Turner, Ted, over at our life insurance company that they have a wonderful commercial with. And that usually takes us to our next segment. But since we don't have commercials on our Zoom remote calls today, we're going to run into our final segment, Agatha, which is called Plead the Fifth. And what Plead the Fifth here is you get to plead the fifth one time while we ask you questions.
Okay.
In case we ask you something too questionable, but you get to plead the fifth one time, and then Ted and I try to keep track of who can make you plead the fifth, right? When you don't want to answer that question. So I'll do a very easy one. And Agatha, we called her today. She did not know, for our listeners, she did not know it was going to be video. I think you look wonderful, by the way. And you said you haven't been to your salon, woman, in weeks, months?
Months.
Months. But is it a requirement for you to match your nails with your earrings? That's my first plead the fifth question.
Oh my gosh. So were you guys seeing my nails?
I saw them come up and it looks like they match your earrings. Put them next to your earrings.
No?
My nails look so crazy.
No. We can't see the detail, but do they match your earrings? Tell me if I'm wrong.
It actually does.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make
intentional.
sure.
But it does, yes.
Fair. Well, I wasn't sure if it was a requirement or just we happened to catch you on a good day.
No, you actually catch me in a semi-good day.
Fair. Go ahead, Ted.
I guess I wanted to know of all of the things that are bad in the like potato chip aisle, is there something that's worse for you that you always need to keep out of your pantry?
I think the most dangerous thing that Americans eat is vegetable oil. And it's everything on that aisle. That potato aisle or something. I think vegetable oil is even worse than sugar, if you ask me.
It's very horrible. True. So you'd go with a chip and avocado oil or something other than that. Is that correct? What is your chip? What is your go-to chip if you need to get one?
My go-to chip would be plantain chips.
Ah, very nice. So, Agatha, what is your biggest cheat meal, and what is your biggest guilt meal that you've eaten that is not correct? You're not promoting it, but when you need to have something off the reservation, what is the meal that you go to?
It's ice cream.
I like that.
And for the record, I just know in my head that I want to do an 80% way of eating. So 80% of the time I'm very purposeful about what I eat. 20% I don't care. So I don't have cheat meals. I don't have those. When it's time for me to eat ice cream, I would eat the best quality ice cream. And I would eat it, but then it can be 3 months because I know it's not good for me every day, but it's good for me once in a while because it gives me pleasure. Yes.
I'm wondering, on the other side of this, I ask you about bad things, but if I could only incorporate one fruit or one vegetable into my diet today, is there one that you would recommend? You know, they talk on TV about some of these that, you know, I remember them talking about the, what is it called? The acai blueberry or whatever.
Yeah, the
everything has
and all those.
Is there one that is really good for me to have in my refrigerator or have on a regular basis?
I wish it works like that. But honestly, there is no one food that you eat every day that's good for you. There isn't. I would say have a variety because we are active, living human beings. We can't just thrive on one food. Yeah, I know there are all those superfoods that every day, like, oh, this superfood. No,
Right.
I would say a variety of stuff. But if there is one thing that you want to do outside of water, I would say the most popular thing, the most important thing that you can have.
My water.
That's right. Would be clean water. That's it. And then outside of that, do as much wholesome foods as humanly possible.
Right. So if you're out there and you essentially drink a lot of water and you eat raw, that's the quickest way to get healthy.
As she sips her lemon water, Ted. I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be raw food. It has to be whole food. That's still, because some foods you can eat raw. You get the best nutrients when they are lightly steamed. Whatever that works for you, because again, we're all bio-individual. What works for A might not work for B, but keep the majority of the things you eat, keep them as close to their original state as humanly possible.
It's very smart.
That is the key.
You know, so we talk about immunity, guys, at this time as we wrap up, and we talk about, and you know this as well, and Ted, you know, I've been on a steady diet of sauerkraut, which is your best way to get some vitamin C. It's great for your stomach. You know, we do a lot of pumpkin seeds, which is a high level of zinc, of course, and they talk about increasing your levels of vitamin D, Ted, and your zinc levels, and your probiotic in your stomach, of course. So Agatha is 100% right. Supplements are nice, but real food is your best way to get your micronutrients. Agatha, you know, for people that do have children as we do, and my kids are not eating super, I guarantee you, you know, they don't. But your products are a great alternative to someone running through a fast food restaurant somewhere, and they can get them as easy as Walmart. But if they want to go on your website, start following you, start looking at your products, understanding how they're made, and listening to you and knowing how much you care, how do people get in touch with you?
For my company, they can go to yummyspoonfuls.com, or they can go to my website, which is agathachindu.com.
And we'll put that
And they
underneath
can
the view
follow
here.
me.
It should appear. It should appear underneath the view.
I'm sorry?
It'll appear underneath the view here if you're, someone's not aware of how to.
All right.
If they're listening to this, go to the YouTube podcast here, or the YouTube video, and you'll be able to see how to spell that as well.
And they can follow me on Instagram, and my handle is Agatha Achindu. I have a mom's group. I had decided to create a safe space that moms could come and talk, because people would inbox me. There are days I'll go to Instagram and I have, it might be 200 direct messages. I don't have the bandwidth to respond to all these messages. But I know the reason that they would DM is because they don't want to, like, say out there on my feed, like, oh, I'm having a hard time getting my child off Ensure or Soda. So I created this Facebook group. It's called Agatha Achindu Moms Group. So if you're a mom out there and you need a little bit of help, you can come to that group where we talk about healthy eating, healthy way of living, something even as basic as teaching our kids how to use breath to manage stress. There's just so much that we can do. But you said something that I just want to touch a bit on when it comes to us with the kids eating better. And you don't have to really go look for my product, but you have to be intentional enough. Kids love sweet. So for parents out there with their kids will not stop drinking soda. They love the vibrant color. They love the sweetness. But your child honestly doesn't have the capacity, doesn't have the understanding that, oh, this type of way of eating is dangerous to me down the road. So I say, even when the budget is tight, just make your own smoothies at home. Fruits are so sweet that your child who is craving sweet would take the sweet that comes with nutrients. There is the fiber and all these phytonutrients that comes in fruits than just giving them pure sugar, right? So we have to really make these choices like, oh, well, I have just $1, things are so tight. Should I buy my child chips? If you think about it, no, get them a banana. They are going to get double, triple benefits from eating the banana. I'm not saying don't give them chips, but chips should be a treat rather than a snack. Snack is an opportunity to nourish, because, you know, it might be during lunchtime, they didn't feel like eating real food, so you gave them ding dong, whatever it is. Then when snack time comes, it's an opportunity that you can fill in the gap that you missed during lunch. So we just have to be a bit mindful.
And Ted, you know, we want to, for the listeners out before you wrap up, don't be a ding dong. Listen to what Agatha's saying. I had to jump on that because Agatha said the ding dong, we grew up with those, Ted, but don't be a ding dong. Listen to this young lady.
Well, that's right. And Agatha, thanks so much for sharing this wisdom with our audience today, not only on the success of your business, but for most entrepreneurs out there, it's about sound body, sound mind. So which comes first really here, the chicken or the egg, no pun intended. It's about having a sound body, and that helps you create a sound mind. And think about if you hired Agatha to do a speaking event or talk to your employees or whatever it may be, how much better could you help your employees? And when people feel better about themselves, they generally perform better. So Agatha, thanks so much for coming on the program today. As always, if you tuned in late, go to shrimptankpodcast.com. You can see a replay not only of Agatha, but of all of our amazing entrepreneurs. And next week, we're going to have on our guest, Brandon Lee. He's going to talk to us about his new book, and much, much more next week right here on the Shrimp Tank.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp